Hello again. So today I want to talk about rewrites. Rewrites. So the first thing I do after my second draft is completed is I do my first draft, I do the table read, I do the second draft, and then I let it rest again. So I let it rest, but not as long as I let my first draft rest. So I would let the second draft rest only about a week or two before I pick it up again to see what I feel about the script. And some scripts, I'll be honest with you, some scripts, The Indian Wife was one of those. Some scripts are ready. Some scripts are done. They're just done. There's nothing left to add. There's nothing left to experience. There's nothing left to understand. Um, Scripts ready to be sent out to festivals or to agents or producers or anywhere. But some scripts need a lot of work even after the second draft is done. The Mine was one such venture, which I've just rewritten completely. In Your Name was a thing of 5, 6 rewrites. It was a lot of work because the story just would not work. There were just too many problems with the story. Even after the second draft, it was just not consistent with what I had originally thought that I would like to convey with the story. And so this is where the rewrites begin. This is where the proper reconstruction of the script begins, and where I suppose craft is the main driver. So how do I rewrite a script? Exactly the same way that I approach my second draft, except I now allow myself to copy and paste um, stuff that I think, yeah, this works. I don't need to be working on this. This is perfectly fine. I can just copy this out from the second draft. We're going to keep this scene unchanged. And I really just work on the specific problem areas that I go back to the table read sometimes even and look at my notes of that, um, and see what did I realize during the table read that didn't work, and did I fix that in the second draft, or does that still need addressing? And so the rewrites are a very kind of finicky and detail oriented thing. I When I'm done with a rewrite, I tend to look at pacing again to see whether the copy and pasting worked or whether I completely destroyed what I just did. Um, and so during that process, it's a very much kind of like, okay, let's look at this minute detail, and then boom, big picture, and then back into detail, and then back into the big picture until we have a story that is still consistent and works, but has been improved in a lot of small different ways. Um, and so that's what I do with the rewrites. Now, that's one thing I do with my rewrites. It's microsurgery to fix a bigger picture, and then it's back to microsurgery, and then it's back to the big picture. Now, sometimes, and the Mine was one such case, um, The Bitter End was another such case, you realize that even after 2 drafts, even after starting your rewrites, even after doing a table read, it's just not good. It's just not good. And that is when you need to question, okay, do I abandon this script completely? Or is there something that I can salvage in this story? Now, I'm going to talk about recycling a little bit later on. Recycling is hugely important. But you have the script there, you put a lot of work into it, and then you do your rewrites, you fix your scene, you fix the other scene, you fix this scene, you fix this character, you fix their voice a little bit, you do this and this and this, and it doesn't feel right. Sometimes all you need to do is take a step back and look, okay, maybe I'm talking about the wrong main character. Am I? Should this be told from the point of view of the other guy? Should this be told from the point of view? Does the side character maybe have an even more interesting story that I'm not looking at properly? Am I telling the right story? I built this whole world, but am I picking out the right story from this world to be telling? Or you realize, oh my God, this story just does not work. But the prequel would be really, really interesting. Or the sequel would be really, really interesting. I'd like to see the prequel to this story, which is exactly what happened to the mine. I wrote the whole story, and then I realized, no, these characters would be much more interesting as teenagers. And then, boom, shifted them into, I shifted them. What happened 15 years ago, told that story properly. That used to be just a little flashback at the start of the story. There it was. There was my script. I had it. Woohoo! The mine is. I'm really, really proud of what happened to the mine. And so that is, this is where you really understand. In the second draft, you try to understand what's happening to your story, but you're very much invested in it. In the rewrites, this is where you understand the final product. You come really, really close to the final product that you have. And you come really close to understanding whether it's worth, whether this is really, really good or whether it's really, really shit. And sometimes in these rewrites, you discover a whole new world that you didn't know before, that you didn't know about before. And sometimes in these rewrites, it's really just a matter of, okay, I'm going to fix this scene and then I'm going to send it off because it's ready to go. But, sometimes a shit story can start out really, really bad. And then through a couple of rewrites, you find something in there that you think, oh my God, yeah, this is really, really good. Or you have a really good concept at the start, or you have a really good scene that you think you want to be talking about. And the more you dissect it, the more you work with it, the more you realize, oh my God, it's just not worth it. This is just horrible. This is just never going to work. And then you have to have the strength to let go of it. And this is why, again, the time between the first draft and the second draft is so hugely important, because you have to be able to let go, because you have to be able to say, you know what, I'm putting work into this, and even after this rewrite, it's still not working. Even after the second rewrite, it's still not working. Even after the third rewrite, I don't feel good about this. I don't like this story. It just doesn't, ugh. And then you gotta let it go. And you let it go and it goes away. And you thank it. Maybe you recycle it, which I'm going to be talking about recycling later on. But if it doesn't want to be there after, say, 3 attempts at rewriting it, step away. Maybe you'll come back to it. Maybe you'll come back to it in a few years' time thinking, oh, you know what, that scene, it doesn't let me go. Maybe I can reattempt it because in those 3 years, you became a better writer, and you learn more about yourself, and you learn more about the world, and you have a different aspect or a different understanding of your craft. But you need to know when to let go. If you put your heart into and your soul into a script, and then you realize after 4 rewrites, yeah, it just doesn't work. There's never going to be a last story. There's always going to be more stories inside you. There's never only going to be just one story that you're telling. And that, I think, is the mistake that many people make, is that they think, oh my God, I have this one story. If I don't get it perfect, I'm never going to be able to tell another story ever again. That's, from my experience and from all the people that I've spoken with, all the people I've interacted with, all the people I look up to and admire, it's never the case. So yes, so 2 things about rewrites. First, know when to really, really put effort in, when to expand your story, when to recreate your story completely, but also know when to let it go. And so, yeah, the rewriting process shouldn't take more than, I want to say, 2 months. you're still at it after 2 months, you might want to take a step back and see where your problems are with this script. Maybe do another table read. Maybe have someone else look over it, or maybe take a step back, put it to the side for a few months, and come back to it to rediscover whether it's worth pursuing, or risk it, send it out, you know, run with it, and take a stand, say, you know what, I put my work in, I'm ready to go, send it out, commit to it. So those are your three options. But I personally, I wouldn't rewrite forever without there being a finite end. And if you're stuck in a rewriting loop, why not put a deadline onto yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to touch this 4 more times. And after those 4 touches, I'm going to put it on the run with it pile, or put it on the wait for it pile. And that's my approach. That's my approach to rewrites.